Recently, Unity Software announced a merger with ironSource, a leading app economy software firm, aka how to best steal your money and install malware. It seems that Unity is aiming to utilize ironSource's tools, platforms, technology, and talent to form an end-to-end platform that allows creators to more easily create, run, and monetize their creations. Blah blah blah, money, money, money. Now, though the merger itself was a little surprising, the real surprise came from Unity Chief's John Riccitiello, who made the comment that those who don't prioritize monetization are fucking idiots. However, it should be noted that this is the same John who was once acting CEO at EA that was noted saying in the 2011 stockholder meeting that when you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask for $1 to reload, you're really not that price sensitive at that point in time. Essentially issuing the importance of player retention and the sheer absurdity monetization can achieve if done right.
Oh man, I have to pay a microtransaction to unlock? That's so...
Really, Unity Software coupling up with ironSource should have been expected, along with John's comments about monetization. The industry's heads aren't the artists or the gamers, they're the moneymakers, and games make a lot of money. The game industry has firmly established its position on microtransactions. We are long past the point of return. Pandora's box was opened the day Microsoft pushed for the inclusion of monetizations with the release of the 360 in 2005, and then cemented within the industry when Bethesda took up the challenge with their Golden Horse armor. Charging players per reload or even bullet isn't the absurdity it once was, and we, the gamers, facilitated it. Our escapism has become our own materialistic prison of self-deception and addiction. Now, the deception isn't really as deep as what is often portrayed. Don't get me wrong, the numerous sources of concern are more or less correct in their statements, but the real trick of monetization and even its ethical implications start way before you open up that in-game store. They start the moment the title screen hits your retinas and your brain starts churning. Because at the core of it all, the reason you find a game fun, the reason you'll spend hours doing the same thing over and over and over again, as well as the reason you'll drop a small fortune on a couple of pixels, is dopamine. The gaming industry is an industry of dopamine. It's slowly becoming virtual tobacco. Maybe a bit hyperbolic, but the tobacco business never sold tobacco. It sold an idea, an attitude, a social standing, and of course, it sold nicotine. Nicotine is the addiction. Tobacco is simply a means of transmission. Your cigarette is a glorified 4,000 chemical piss stick that'll give you cancer long before it gives you a purpose. But that nicotine makes it a form of ecstasy. An ecstasy that was dressed up to be something cool, sophisticated, and important. A wanting and need tactically tied to a drug that can be just as addictive as heroin. The gaming industry works on a similar principle. Though much more forgiving on the cancer front, games are glorified transmissions of dopamine. Their inherent interactivity facilitates an action-reward function, unlike any other form of entertainment. They sell you on an image, an idea, a moment of victory or importance that is supported by action and reward, an action and reward that has become increasingly monetized directly. The real treachery of Diablo Immortal is not that your legendary gem could cost you $10,000, or that Blizzard hide their loot boxes behind rifts. It's that the legendary gem has a substantial impact on the base mechanical systems that have facilitated your enjoyment, and in turn, your dopamine response. From just receiving the gem, to equipping and having it elevate your stats, and therefore your runtimes and monster killing ability, they are building a compulsion loop of both action and reward that is further glorified by the additional real-world money you can spend. We are not dealing with a deceptive sales pitch. We are dealing with a nefarious intention to formulate pathological engagement that are fueled by actions and rewards that are then monetized. We are talking about an industry that is attempting to facilitate the means in which they can essentially induce repetitive play and then monetize it. We are talking about an industry that is trying to monetize addiction. As of this year, 2022, the World Health Organization has declared that game disorder is officially a mental illness. Now, this is not to say that every gamer is an addict. It is simply to say that the same dopamine-inducing elements of video games that can in turn lead to a dependency, that in turn lead to a gaming disorder, are the very same principles that are sought out to be used as potential forms of monetization. This is not an issue of what should and shouldn't be sold. It is incredibly simple. If you are selling on the principle of mechanics that have been composed to create compulsion loops that function by inducing dopamine to a player's receptors, then you are in the business of selling dopamine, not in selling a video game experience. This dopamine-filled industry isn't just one leaving gamers' brains looking the same as drug addicts. It's one that is also attempting to circumvent any and all legal obligations it has with the way in which it monetizes itself. V-Bucks, crowns, credits, coins, whatever the currency is, this is the real heart and soul of the industry. Because it is this initial transaction of real-world money to exchange for made-up bullshit currency that actually counts towards the growing revenue of the industry. It's this initial exchange of your money that protects them from any legal issue, as well as the key purchase that surrenders your consumer rights. That's because you don't actually buy the currency. You are simply purchasing licenses that allow you to use the currency. The currency that you have, by this point, agreed holds no real-world value, by merit of the terms and services you've signed. You don't own your V-Bucks, which means you don't actually own anything you purchase with them. You don't own anything. You are simply licensing it to your account for the foreseeable future, a license that is under the condition that what you have isn't yours and can, at any time, for any reason, be removed. Really, what you've bought yourself is a little hit of dopamine, a feel-good moment, and the deceptive feeling of persistence within a virtual space. But you hold no rights here. There is no consumer protection beyond the box price. Now sure, NFTs and the blockchain could be a potential solution. You would technically own what you purchased. The idea that the game industry has attempted to lean into NFTs should be a warning sign that it isn't as simple as just allowing a player to own what they purchased, or for the sale of an item or function to be one made ethically, without the reliance on including addictive relations within a game's mechanic. Ultimately, it still comes down to how we regulate both as an individual and as a community. Meaning, it's more about how we work legislation or seek legislation to protect us, like the events we saw in Europe and its conclusions on loot boxes. The video game industry is not just the dopamine industry, it's an industry that is existing off promise. Promise that it won't take away what you believe to be yours. And it's just getting started. Sure, loot boxes have been frowned upon, but 50 million a week in Diablo Immortal, regardless of the outrage surrounding it, tells you that players, by and large, are willing to facilitate these fictitious worlds of deception with their real-world time and money. Welcome to the gaming industry, where dopamine is exploited and consumer rights are void. Personal responsibility is not just for the gamers, it's for everyone involved, including those at the top. Don't excuse practices as industry standard, they aren't. They are practices pushed into the industry by people. And there is, unfortunately, a necessary evil here. You need your moneymakers. You need your Johns. Those that will turn a profit. But they should never be the heart and soul of an industry. So keep talking, keep observing, and keep the industry accountable. I'm Trash Basket. This was a trash video. Like and subscribe for all things gaming, from deep dives to shitty rants and more.